Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Wellbeing Connection in the month of January. I am so excited for our topic today. We are going to be talking all about weight loss medications, a timely topic, and we hear it on the news and in commercials all the time. My name is Joni Rampola. I am one of the registered licensed dietitians with the Giant Company, so your Giant food stores and your Martin's Food Markets. And with me today, I have one of our expert pharmacists. Meg, I would love if you take a minute to introduce yourself.
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Megan Dixon. I am a licensed pharmacist in the state of Pennsylvania. I also work for the Giant Company. I am the clinical pharmacy specialist for the Giant Company. So I cover all four of the states that we're in and all the pharmacies. So you have one of the best here today, but all of our pharmacists are really the best. So I can't take full credit on that one.
But yes, we go right to the top to get the expert advice. So let's start off. Megan, if you don't mind, if I ask you some questions about weight loss medications, we are going to just pick your brain here.
Absolutely.
So
Go right ahead.
let's start off easy. What are some common medications that people might use for weight loss?
Oh my gosh, there's so many and several different types of medications on the market right now that are FDA approved specifically for weight loss. So some familiar names that have been around a while, phentermine, that's been around for like what feels like forever, orlistat, Kismia, and Contrave. So just as like a quick quick summary of each, phentermine's a stimulant. It helps to decrease your appetite and therefore helps with weight loss. Orlistat has other names, Xenocol or Ally. They're both over the counter, but it works by decreasing the amount of dietary fat absorbed in your intestines. Kismia is a combination of phentermine and another drug called topiramate. That they're both prescription medications. And then Contrave is a combination of a drug known as naltrexone and another one as bupropion. And that one's specifically to help those who suffer from emotional or binge eating disorders. So those are all the tablets, like the main tablets that we use for weight loss. But the hottest group slash class slash family of medications right now are those injectable GLP-1 medications. Some common names that all of our attendees might know or hear are Wegovy, Zepbound, and Mounjaro.
Ozempic.
Ozempic, yeah. So like the weight loss ones are Wegovy, Zepbound, Mounjaro, but then we have like all of the ones that cover diabetes too, that are labeled, I should say labeled for diabetes. So then we have Ozempic, Trulicity, and all of those too. So all of them are kind of in the same family, do all the same good stuff, and work the same way.
And just a quick clarification, what does GLP-1 stand for?
Yeah, so a GLP-1 is a glucagon-like peptide 1, and then there's another set of terms called receptor agonist that are tagged on the rest of that. So the whole name of the class is really a glucagon-like peptide 1 receptor agonist, but it's cut short most of the time to GLP-1s just for sake of time and speaking. And they work by mimicking a naturally occurring hormone in our body that's called GLP-1. So the name is fitting for the function of the drug. So our GLP-1 hormone is released in our gut typically after we eat. So by mimicking that hormone and giving your body extra of that hormone, it slows down our emptying in our stomach, which makes you feel fuller, longer, and therefore it decreases your appetite. Their primary function is again slowing the emptying of our stomach, and then that kind of helps to assist the pancreas in producing insulin. So then we're decreasing glucagon production, which is the how our body like packs on all of those extra sugars and carbs, and stores them in other parts to be released later. So a couple different things. They again increase that feeling of fullness for longer, and they help with blood sugar control in our body.
Excellent. So thank you for that explanation. We appreciate that. So why do you think they're so popular? What's all the buzz about?
Uh, they weren't originally approved for weight loss, right? They're approved for patients with diabetes because of that blood sugar control component of it. But they found that they work great for weight loss. So now we have the whole other, they're the same drugs, different names, but do the same things, right? So we have all these names, but really it comes down to 3 or 4 main drugs with all these different names that are approved for weight loss. So now we have a dual action. We have weight loss and blood sugar control. They not only to work to promote those feelings of fullness, which aid in weight loss, but manage those blood sugar levels I had already said. Per the American Academy of Family Physicians, patients on a GLP-1 see an average of 5 to 15% of body weight loss over 12 months, which is that's a huge drop for patients. And in addition, the American Diabetes Association reports GLP-1s can reduce a patient's A1C by 0.78 to 1, about 2% of a drop for A1C. So anybody that currently has diabetes, type 2 diabetes, when you have a drop of 2% in your A1C, that's a huge deal, and can really help to manage your blood sugars in a different way. It's one of our top go-tos for lowering A1C.
Hey, Megan, can you just say just real quick, like what is a
Yeah.
hemoglobin A1C?
Sorry. Hemoglobin A1C, sorry guys. It's just an average of our blood sugars over like probably about a 12-week period. So it's just tracking instead of like a pricking your finger and getting that number in time. It's just an average over 12 weeks.
Excellent. So are GLP-1 safe for everyone? Because you hear so many people talking about it.
Absolutely. So they're not recommended for people who have been diagnosed with pancreatitis or those with type 1 diabetes, and if you're pregnant or breastfeeding. So they're also not typically recommended for those with diabetic retinopathy, or have experienced problems with their pancreas or kidneys. And if you have a family history of some different thyroid carcinomas, it's probably not the right fit for you. But otherwise, other than those categories, they're generally safe for most patients and most people. So it's best just to discuss your specific needs with your medical provider, and they can really help make the best decision for you.
A customer is asking if you could talk about some possible side effects for someone taking a GLP-1.
Absolutely. That is like the talk of the town with them. So they're generally super well tolerated for the most part, except there are a lot of common side effects. So some people might have no side effects at all, but the really hot ones that we hear are nausea, vomiting, constipation, and diarrhea. Some other side effects include stomach pain, headache, fatigue, an upset stomach, dizziness, heartburn, and like gas and belching. So they're supposed to, I shouldn't say, I don't want to say supposed to. For most patients, those side effects go away as you start to tolerate the medication better. Sometimes that nausea sticks around for the most part, but just if you overeat, you'll get nauseous and can induce some vomiting. There are some more serious side effects, and they're super rare, but can still occur. So it's important to discuss any of the serious side effects you may be experiencing, or even if the nausea, like if you have nausea, and even though it's a common side effect, if it's so bad that you can't eat all day long, like you want to talk to your provider as soon as possible. They can, either change the medication or decrease that drug for you.
Absolutely.
I can go over some of the more scary, severe side effects if we think that'd be helpful.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So some of these severe side effects include inflammation of your pancreas, some gallbladder problems. You have an increased risk of low sugar. So if you are a patient who has diabetes and are on insulin, you just have that extra risk of lowering your blood sugar too much.
And just to clarify, these are more rare.
Yes, these are more rare, more serious. They typically don't happen, but if they were to happen, it's just something you want to call your doctor as soon as possible for.
Yep.
Some patients experience some kidney problems, and it's not directly from the medication, it's dehydration from that nausea, vomiting, and diarrhea that we talked about earlier. For patients with type 2 diabetes, it can change your vision, which is why it's important that patients with retinopathy or eye issues talk to your doctor before you were to start taking this medication. Other patients may experience like an increased heart rate, and depression is also with that as well.
What if
So
you already have gallstones?
if you already have gallstones, you definitely want to talk to your doctor about it, just because it can cause differences in how you digest fats, which is what affects like your gallbladder and gallstones in general and can cause that inflammation. So you're just at increased risk for those being more bothersome.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. I'm so sorry. Yes, I do. I was like reading the chat. So I was like, there's so many questions coming in on the chats. So I have a question for you, Joni, that just comes up when I talk to my parents are on these medications and everything. But can someone just take this medication once a week to lose 5 to 15% of their body weight without doing anything else?
So that's a really great question because that's what I think a lot of people think, right? Is that they just take an injection and the weight just comes off. But that's not exactly how it works. So the medications work to slow down your digestion, so reduces your appetite while increases your feeling of fullness, which is a great thing, and that's partially how you lose weight. But when you take in less food, the food that you intake becomes even more important, right? You want to make sure you're getting the nutrition your body needs in those less calories that you're taking in. And that is specifically protein. It's all nutrients, but I really focus on protein when I'm talking to somebody on a GLP-1. So not eating enough protein can lead to the weight loss that comes from your muscle mass, where you want it to come mostly from your fat stores. So following a balanced diet plan is really important. Prioritizing that protein and fiber is also really important. And also getting physical activity can help you maintain your progress. GLP-1s work best in conjunction with that healthy, balanced diet that in all the classes you hear the dietitians talk about. So balanced diet eating pattern would include more lean proteins, fruits and vegetables, whole grains, and low-fat dairy products, and limits added sugar or those highly processed foods. Some clients feel fuller on smaller amounts of food, so often more frequent meals that include protein and fiber are also suggested.
Awesome. Thanks, Joni. So really, I mean, you can take that shot, but balanced diet and activity are super important too.
Absolutely. So how often might someone see their provider while they're taking these medications?
So I think it really comes down to the provider and what they want. So the number of visits and how often they may occur will be dependent on your provider and who's prescribing the medication to you, and the reason. So if we're using it for weight loss versus if you're losing it to lower your A1C or those blood sugar levels that we talked about. So additional visits may be more common earlier on because there's lots of dose adjustments for the medication. So as those dose adjustments are occurring, you may see your provider a lot more often. I
Did
always recommend oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, I always recommend working with a dietitian and or a weight management program if you can, and if it's available in your area. And for those that say it's not available in your area, there's typically virtual options, so it can be available in your area. So for several patients, it can be super difficult to eat enough while they take these medications, which is, a crazy thought when you're talking about weight loss, but you don't want to starve yourself. You still have to eat, as Joni had said, all of those necessary nutrients and proteins and all of that, all the good stuff, all the healthy stuff for our body. So we want to make sure that we're still eating all of those necessary nutrients and can maintain that healthy diet and physical activity while we're taking the medications.
Yes, I also get questions from clients as to over-the-counter supplements. Are there any supplements that stand out to you that may conflict with GLP-1s?
The biggest one is chromium, that I can think of off the top of my head. And really, chromium, sometimes patients are trying to take that if they have type 2 diabetes and are lowering their blood sugar. So it's just one of those things that can just increase the side effects of GLP-1s and the medications themselves. So that's the major thing. If you were going to be on a GLP-1 and you currently take chromium, I would talk to your doctor about discontinuing the chromium. And then just with that, some multivitamins contain chromium. So if you're on a multivitamin and you're interested in a GLP-1, just make sure you check out that ingredient list. And if there is chromium, you just might want to switch out to a different multivitamin to decrease those side effects.
Excellent. Thank
Yeah,
you.
great question. Joni, what if someone's not tolerating the medication and having side effects, like, as I talked about, like if they're not able to eat, what do you recommend as a dietitian they do?
Ah, good question. Yes, because that is a very common side effect. So keeping your body nourished is always a first priority. So there's several things that you can do. But first, if you're unable to eat or keep food or fluids down while you're taking your medication, you first want to talk to your doctor or a prescriber to make sure that the dose of medication is right for you. They can titrate it down sometimes to a more tolerable dose. So some people, if you're having trouble eating, may have to set an alarm to remind them, hey, it's time for a meal, right? Because if you're not hungry, you often just forget and then you don't eat it. So setting that alarm can be helpful um, when you don't have that urge to eat. So eating smaller, more frequent meals, including protein and lean meat, fish, eggs, Greek yogurt. Some people have trouble with texture of meat, so Greek yogurt can be really helpful as a protein source. Or if they're just feeling nausea, adding some ginger or avoiding those high-fat foods or spicy foods, and staying hydrated is really important too. And some people I might even recommend or talk to about an electrolyte mix. So whether it's over-the-counter electrolytes that you add to your water, because if you're not feeling good and not getting enough, you have to get all those nutrients in to keep your body hydrated. And that I think is really important as well. So back to you, Megan. If a client on a GLP-1 medication, they're having trouble finding the medication. I saw somebody in chat say that there may have been a out of stock condition. What can you tell them?
So, yeah, great question. I think when the GLP-1s first became a big, like, they're not only popular for patients, right? They're really popular among our providers and prescribers for, again, not only weight loss, but also patients with type 2 diabetes. And when they became, when they got released and they became known for everything that they can do for patients, there was a mad dash to get the medications. Celebrities started reporting they were taking the medications. They were all over media outlets, Instagram, everything. So when all of that happened, companies like drug manufacturers and the pharmacy industry itself was definitely not prepared for it. And they just couldn't keep up with all of the demand coming. So supplies were super difficult to find, probably, I want to say, almost the last 2 years. Um, the major issue that occurred with this is that providers then started using the medications like the GLP-1s that were labeled for patients with diabetes and giving them to patients for weight loss. So then patients with type 2 but diabetes couldn't get their diabetes medications. And that's, an even bigger problem. So for some time, there was a shortage of all of the GLP-1 medications, which was really, really tough. And I don't want to say like our patients that are using it for weight loss, it's not important, but it was really tough for our patients with type 2 diabetes when that they were relying on that to control their blood sugar. Most of the supply issues, I don't want to say all, but most of them do seem to be resolved at this point. And you typically can get at least a box, like 1 month at a time at most pharmacies. So some pharmacies don't carry them because they just didn't want to deal, I think, with all the supply issues. But for the most part, I know all of our Giant and Martin pharmacies, as well as some of our sister brands in other states. But you can typically get at least one box at a time of the majority of the drugs in that class.
And then somebody in chat asked a comment about intermittent fasting that I just want to make a comment about. But I will just say in the chat, there's so much love for this conversation.
Good,
Everybody's
yay!
saying like, oh, loving the information, which is great. So intermittent fasting is where you limit your eating to maybe an 8-hour window, some a 10-hour window, but you limit the amount of time that you're actually eating. And when you're on a GLP-1, sometimes it's hard to get in a large quantity of food. So if I can't get in enough food and I'm also limited in the time I'm eating, like you probably can't do 6 meals in an 8-hour time period. So it may be harder. I wouldn't say I'm against it. It would depend on the person, but I feel like it might be harder to get all your nutrition in if you were also doing intermittent fasting, but that would be on a case by case individual basis is what I'm thinking. So then back to you, Megan.
Yeah.
If supply issues seem to be resolving, why are pharmacies still limiting how much someone can receive at one time?
Absolutely. So every pharmacy and every pharmacy chain, everyone's going to have their own policies and rules in regard to filling these medications, as well as they do with every other, class or medication type. But the limitations initially were created and existed to ensure that we could fill all of the medications for existing patients and keep up with the supply and demand that we talked about. But these medications are also extremely costly for the patient and the insurance companies. So for your insurance company, sometimes the limits are back on the insurance company. And so not only the pharmacy themselves, but your insurance may limit to 1 month at a time. But the dose also changes super often with these medications. So if it's costly for you or your insurance company, the pharmacies are really trying to cut back on wasted cost or wasted medications. We don't want to fill 3 boxes at a time. So a 3 month supply essentially, and then your dose change, 4 weeks in, and now you have 2 boxes at home that are useless. So for the most part, I'd say it's really trying to save and cut back on cost and waste for you as the patient, and also just the medication in general. We don't want to waste any of it. So cost control is really the biggest part of that, though.
Absolutely. Saving the customer's money is what we're all about, right?
Yes.
So what happens if someone has to stop taking it, whether they can't tolerate it, they decide not to, or they can't find it?
Yeah, so I've seen that in the chat a couple times now. So I think it's great that we go over it. So right now, medical providers do consider these GLP-1s lifelong medications. So whether you're taking it for weight loss or taking it if you have diabetes, it is considered a lifelong medication. It's not something that you take for a year and stop. There might be some reasons that some patients may discontinue or be forced to stop a GLP-1, as you had said, Joni, like maybe you can't tolerate it, maybe you can't find it. Those side effects are truly brutal. And as I had just said in the previous question, like they're costly. Like some patients can pay, hundreds of dollars for a box of these. So 4 weeks, it's crazy. So if some patients don't want to take and on top of all of that, some patients just don't want to be on a shot for the rest of their life. So if they have the option to not be, you know, they'll take that. Um, However, research has shown that for many who stop taking the medication, patients regain a substantial amount of the weight that they had lost with the help of the medication. So, full research shows the patients regain about 2/3 of the lost weight after 1 year of discontinuation of the what they call clinical intervention. So, like once you stop the medication, about a year after, you gain about 2/3 of the weight back.
But not
And
all,
there's
and that's a good
yeah,
thing.
not all, but I mean, depending on how much weight you lost, 2/3 could be a lot of weight. And there's more studies if you're somebody that likes to look at studies and trials and are familiar with the whole drug realm. Step 1 trial extension is one of those, and surmount 4 trial both look at those, the regain or the rebound weight gain after you were to stop a GLP-1. Be a great question and one of the downsides to taking and or discontinuing them.
Yes, absolutely. So if the GLP-1 is mimicking our natural hormone inside our body, is there a way that someone can raise their own GLP-1 levels naturally without taking a hormone? And I just want to say, I'm asking you this question,
Yeah.
but there's no comparison to actually taking a hormone and raising your levels naturally. You're not going to get nearly the close to the effect of the drug. But some people ask me that. Is there a way to do it naturally?
Yeah, I think you can focus on some like minor dietary changes, which you yourself, Joni, can talk more to than I can. And there's some potential supplements to help naturally raise your own GLP-1 levels. However, the increase in naturally raising your own levels is not equivalent to the levels mimicked at all by the taking the injectable GLP-1 receptor agonist. Sorry. So,
Yeah.
Joni, if you have anything about the dietary portion of that, I will let you. That is your domain, so you can touch on that.
Yes, protein, fiber, and healthy fat. Like that is really what helps the most. So including just again the well-balanced diet, also exercising can naturally raise your GLP-1. So yes, there are definitely things that you can do diet, but it's not going to be nearly as drastic of a result as if you're taking a hormone. But if your levels are low, diet can help you raise them.
Absolutely. I did see a question, just so everyone knows, a question about like, does it come in non-injectable form? So currently there is, if you look at Ozempic, um, semaglutide is like the fancy name for it. And it does come in a oral form called Rybelsus, but it's only indicated for patients with type 2 diabetes. And the tablets don't show as good of weight loss as the injectables do. So they do show similar side effects and stuff without the same benefits, which is why they haven't switched to any of the current injectables for weight loss to tablet form, because it's just not as good. But yeah, so great question and great call out.
And I see a question, what am I calling a healthy fat? So I just want to clarify that. Um, Olive oil, olives, avocados, avocado oil, nuts, seeds, and by seeds meaning like chia seeds, hemp hearts or hemp seeds, flaxseed are your healthy fats to include. And then I see a question about what do I do if I'm on a GLP-1 and I have hair loss?
That is definitely something you want to talk to your doctor about. Chances are it's probably like an imbalance of nutrients that you're getting that's then causing, some your production, like what the cells that create your hair and your nails and all of that good stuff, your skin. If you're not getting the proper nutrients and like that, having a balanced diet, it can start causing hair loss, nail breakage. Your skin might be extra dry, even though it's winter and the heat's on, it might be drier than normal, even for winter time. So it could be, unfortunately, like what you're able to get into your body. So definitely talk to your provider and see if you can get, if you can or need a referral to a dietitian. And then I would recommend trying to get in with a dietitian so they can kind of look at what you're eating and give you some pointers.
Absolutely. And sometimes just rapid weight loss, you see that happen. So if you lost weight too quickly, it could be just a hormone imbalance. But yes, I would also want to look at, are you getting your good healthy fats in there? Are you getting enough B vitamins in what you're eating? Because sometimes when you eat less, that can also happen. Yes.
And I saw a question on where on the body they're typically injected. Typically, you see it on your stomach. It's what they call a subcutaneous injection. So, kind of like the fatty areas on the back of your arms, the side of your thighs, or your stomach. And you just want to make sure you're not injecting in the same spot every week. It's only a once a week injection, so it's not bad, but you don't want to build up any kind of scar tissue or anything. So we just like I tell patients, the stomach is probably the most comfortable part, and easiest for you to access, but rotate it like a clock. So go in a big circle around your stomach like a clock, and then you'll never inject in the same spot, twice within, a 12-week period. But that's a good
Excellent.
question.
Yes, thank you. You know what? And I didn't even open the Q&A box, and I just see I have a ton of questions in there.
Oh yeah.
So I apologize,
Oh
everybody.
goodness.
We have like 3 minutes. Semaglutide meds that are injected, customer has tried them, they get sick on the day of the dosage. Does that mean they're allergic or can't handle it?
No, I think that's a really common side effect of them. I don't think it's that you're allergic. I don't think it's that you can't handle. It's just that extreme like slowing of the stomach, which can cause a nausea. If it's something that's really like impeding on your life, and your daily activities, then it's something to talk to your doctor about. They may just want to decrease your dose, and see if you tolerate them any better. But no, great question.
Can you take the weight loss medications if you don't have a gallbladder?
As far as I know, yes. There's no contraindication or what they say, like hard stop if you don't have a gallbladder. So, patients without gallbladders already kind of have to watch what you eat. If you don't have a gallbladder, even if you have gallstones, you know that if you eat higher fat diets and things like that, you may have a lot of tummy upset. So you just are at a little bit more of an increased risk for more of that tummy upset, while being on a GLP-1, but it's something you can certainly still take. Yes.
Uh, And some people are just talking about their experience with it, where there's not really a question there. So I'm not going to read those. A lot of questions about side effects, which I feel like we covered. What if you have
Yes.
thyroid issues? Are all medications a no-no?
No, absolutely not. If you have thyroid issues, so whether it's too working too hard or not working enough, you can still take the medication. The only like the warning on this medication is if you have certain thyroid cancers that run in your family. So if you have a family history of certain thyroid cancers, you just want to talk to your doctor to make sure it's not the two that are linked to the drugs. But other than that, no, please feel free to take it. I encourage you, especially if you have hypothyroidism, it makes it I have that. So it's very difficult to lose weight when you have that to begin with, and your own hormones are imbalanced. So I encourage talk to your doctor.
And last question, a customer's asking, why are the medications so expensive? Without insurance, it's impossible.
It's crazy, I know. I don't know. I think it's an injectable. They all have their own patented fancy pens that, they come with their own pen tops and everything. It's a non-insulin injectable, but I think very similar to insulin. When insulin, came out, insulin was crazy prices for the longest time, really until the last year and a half, when generics started coming out and things that they call biosimilars, where they could drop the price in the market. Unfortunately, with these medications, they're brand name and they're injectables and they're specialty, right? They're a special medication. So it's just going to take a couple years for the fad to die down and that demand to die down a little bit more. And then hopefully that we'll see a decrease in price. But unfortunately, it's just the way that the pharmacy industry and market works in the US. So it's just one of the things that we have to deal with.
Well, thank you so much for sharing your expertise with us. We greatly appreciate it. And I feel like from all the love you're getting in the chat here, like people have really appreciated all this information. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you to everyone who joined us and
Uh,
listened in. We appreciate you so much.
Thank you all for having me. And
Thank
I hope
you.
everybody has a great week.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. Bye. Have a great rest of your day.